Rain poured over the busy city streets like shattered glass, the night cold and unwelcoming. Cars hissed past, lights blurred in the downpour, and somewhere between the noise and chaos stood a young woman. Drenched, trembling, clutching a worn-out handbag to her chest as if it were her only lifeline. That night, fate had cornered her. Her shoes were soaked, her mascara streaked down her cheeks, and her heart felt like it was splitting open from years of trying to survive. Then, out of nowhere, a black car stopped in front of her. The window rolled down halfway, revealing a pair of sharp, unreadable eyes. A deep voice, calm but commanding, cut through the storm. "Get in the car. If you believe that kindness, second chances, and humanity can still exist, even in the coldest of hearts, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Because this story will remind you that sometimes the most unexpected people save us when we least expect it." Her name was Lena Carter. She had been working double shifts at a small cafe, barely making enough to pay rent. Her mother was sick, the hospital bills were piling up, and her younger brother was still in school, depending on her for everything. That night, after being fired for refusing her boss's inappropriate advances, Lena had nowhere to go. Her umbrella broke in the storm, her phone was dead, and she was stranded miles away from her apartment. An apartment she might soon lose anyway. She stood under a flickering streetlight, soaked to the bone, her chest tightening from exhaustion and fear. That's when the car stopped. Inside sat Ethan Voss, a man whose name carried weight in the city. The silent CEO, known for his ruthless business decisions and emotionless demeanor. His empire stretched across industries, finance, real estate, technology. People said he had no heart, no time for sympathy. Yet, something about the way Lena stood there, fragile but unbroken, made him pause. He didn't know why he stopped. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was guilt from a past he never talked about. All he said in that low, firm tone was, "Get in the car." At first, Lena shook her head, afraid. The man looked powerful, intimidating, someone from another world. But then she noticed how his gaze wasn't cold. It was worried. A rare kind of worry that didn't fit his image. Shivering, unsure, she hesitated before finally getting in. The warmth of the car hit her like a wave. Expensive leather, the faint scent of cedarwood, and the hum of soft classical music in the background. It felt like another planet. She clutched her bag, staring out the window. Trying not to cry, Ethan said nothing. He just drove. After a few minutes, he handed her a towel and a cup of hot coffee from the console. "You shouldn't be out alone this late," he finally said, his eyes still on the road. Lena's voice trembled. "I didn't have a choice." She didn't elaborate, and he didn't ask. But something in her tone, that quiet, defeated honesty, pierced through the walls he had built around his soul for years. When they reached an old apartment building, she quietly thanked him and stepped out. Before she could shut the door, he said, "Wait." She turned back, confused. "Lena," she replied softly. "Lena Carter." He nodded, expression unreadable. "Take care of yourself, Lena." Then the car disappeared into the rain. But that wasn't the end. 2 days later, Lena arrived at the hospital to find her mother's condition worsening. The doctors said they couldn't continue treatment without payment. Lena's hands shook as she pleaded, tears falling freely. She had no one to turn to, no family, no friends who could help. She spent that night sitting in the hallway, sobbing quietly into her hands. The next morning, a nurse approached her with confusion. "Miss Carter, your mother's bill. It's been paid." Lena froze. "Paid? By who?" "There's no name. Just a note that says, 'Take care of her.'" Her heart stopped. Ethan Voss, the silent CEO who barely knew her, had done this. She didn't understand why. They had met once, shared barely a conversation. But he had saved her mother's life without saying a word. Days turned into weeks. Lena's mother slowly recovered, and Lena got a new job at a corporate building as a temporary assistant. It was only after her first day that she realized whose company it was, Voss Enterprises. And the moment she walked into the sleek glass tower, she saw him again, in the elevator, surrounded by executives. He looked as cold and focused as ever, but when his eyes briefly met hers, something softened. He didn't acknowledge her in public. Not yet. But later that week, she received a private message from his office. He wanted her transferred to his department. She didn't know whether to be terrified or grateful. Working under Ethan was intense. He barely spoke, never smiled, and demanded perfection. But beneath that stoic exterior, Lena began to see flickers of humanity, the way he quietly donated to employee relief funds or stayed late to ensure no one else had to. He never took credit, never sought praise. It was as if he was constantly trying to atone for something invisible. One night, after everyone had left, Lena noticed him sitting alone in his office, staring at an old photo on his desk, a woman and a little girl. His expression was unreadable, his hand trembling slightly. Before she could turn away, he spoke without looking up. "They were my wife and daughter." Her breath caught. His voice was low, rough, like he hadn't said those words aloud in years. "A drunk driver hit their car 5 years ago. I was supposed to pick them up that night, but I stayed late at work. I missed their call." He laughed bitterly. "I keep saving strangers, hoping it'll make up for the ones I couldn't save." Lena's heart broke for him. For the first time, she saw not a powerful CEO, but a shattered man drowning in guilt. "You can't fix the past," she whispered. "But you can still do good, and you already have." For a moment, he said nothing. Then, very quietly, he whispered, "Maybe meeting you was part of that good." From that night on, something changed between them. The silence between them wasn't cold anymore, it was comforting. Ethan started opening up in small ways. He'd bring her coffee when she worked late. He'd ask about her mother's health. Slowly, their worlds, once miles apart, began to merge. But one evening, everything shifted again. As Lena was leaving the office, she noticed a car idling nearby, the same model that had followed her for weeks. Fear twisted in her stomach. She tried to ignore it, but when she got home, her door was slightly ajar. Her heart pounded as she stepped inside and froze. A man from her past, her old boss from the cafe, was waiting. The one she'd exposed for harassment. "Thought you could ruin me, huh?" he hissed. "You'll regret that." Before he could step closer, headlights flashed through the window. Tires screeched. The door burst open. Ethan stood there, silent but furious. He had followed her after noticing something was wrong with the security logs that day. Without hesitation, he grabbed the man, pinned him, and called security. "Don't ever come near her again," he said, his voice colder than ice. When it was over, Lena was shaking uncontrollably. Ethan turned to her, his expression softening for the first time. "I told you to get in the car that night," he said quietly, "because I knew something about you. You had the same look my wife did before she died. The look of someone trying to be strong for everyone else while breaking inside." His voice cracked. "I wasn't going to lose another person I could have saved." A tear spilled down Lena's face. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. "You didn't just save me, Ethan. You gave me my life back." For a long moment, they stood there, two broken souls who'd found healing in each other's quiet strength. Months later, Lena's life looked nothing like before. Her mother was healthy, her brother thriving in college, and she had built a promising career under Ethan's guidance. But more than that, she had found something rare: peace. Ethan still carried his grief, but he no longer walked alone. Lena became the light he didn't know he needed, and in saving her, he had unknowingly saved himself.